Captain to bridge.
Spock here.
Any signs of life?
Negative.
Have you tried all hailing frequencies?
Affirmative. No answer from the cube.
Have the department heads meet me on the bridge.
Already standing by.
Life sciences.
Same report.
So are we gonna just let it hold us here? We've got phaser weapons. I vote we blast it.
I'll keep that in mind, Mr. Bailey. When this becomes a democracy.
You realize that the aim will, of course, be very crude.
I don't care if you hit the broadside of a barn. Just hurry, please.
Captain, why should I aim at such a structure?
Mind, Spock. Just get on with the job.
Guys, what's going on? You are listening to Future Imperfect, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I am Lieutenant Commander, like the Birdman, but I'm not alone as we go across the Alpha Quadrant in, well, you don't know who to trust these days, do you? I'm joined by the person I'm pretty sure is who he says he is.
Alex? I got, now that, what was it, or didn't we see Orions or something on the ship too, like races?
Oh, yeah.
We did, yeah. So I guess anybody can be in Starfleet now, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well.
Like, hey guys, come on out. And that other voice you heard is our good friend, our science officer, the person who can basically build it virtually anything when it comes to Star Trek. He does stuff for all sorts of stuff in Star Trek. Specifically, he does stuff for Modiphius and pretty much makes all the cool things in your role-playing games happen. That is...
I'm Aaron Pollyea.
All right, guys, so we have a lot to talk about, and we're actually excited to talk about a Star Trek property that isn't Lower Decks, that isn't Strange New Worlds. What are you talking about, Mike? Well, I'm certainly glad you asked. So, last time on Dragon Ball Z, we've talked about Picard Season 1, Season 2, and expressing highs, lows, and what the fucks as we've gone through that series.
Mostly bewilderment, actually. I think, certain episodes we talked about in Season 1 where we were like, huh? Season 1 was mostly head scratcher.
Yeah.
And then like, why is this Mass Effect meets Babylon 5?
There's some good stuff in it. There is. I have to be fair. There is some good stuff, but most of it is just baffling. Yeah.
I think out of the 10 episodes of Season 1, you could have made a really good, not great, but a good 1 hour, 1.5 hour TV movie. If you cut out the extraneous stuff that was head scratching. And then Season 2, same thing, maybe?
Yeah, there were some interesting ideas. I just don't know if it was fully baked through. You know what I mean? Like,
characterization made no sense in Season 2 at all.
Yeah, like there's definitely something where maybe another writer's room should have taken a pass over this just to tighten things up a little bit.
And before we get like into the full bore of the first half of Season 3 that has aired as of this recording, one thing you and I binged, I rewatched, but you binged for the first time the latest 3 episodes of the show. And one thing that was very apparent that we both mentioned to each other was how comfortable Patrick Stewart seems to be back in the role in Season 3 comparatively to Seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It was almost like having the older actors around him, but also having a vision
competency
of because there are different directors for each, like every 2 episodes has a different director, so they're doing them in pairs, and there are different writers, but there is a clear writer's room. There is a clear, if not series, a season Bible for this.
Yeah,
he seems to feel, whether or not it's through direction to him or he's just eased back into it more, he seems to feel more like the character we knew, where he didn't appear or act at all in Season 1 and 2 like he should have, based on the character that was established. It was almost like he was just playing him. It was like this wasn't Jean-Luc Picard. It was just Patrick Stewart being Patrick Stewart, pretending to be Jean-Luc.
I will agree that it felt more like Patrick Stewart on screen rather than Jean-Luc Picard in Season 1 and 2, but I don't know if I would want to say that it's him being out of character, because I mean, yeah, people change over time and all that, but
yeah, it felt a jarring change.
Yeah, it was a jarring change. I will agree with that.
And it's more jarring now that watching Season 3, seeing how he's essentially, he is has the elements of seasons 1 and 2, like they were trying to portray, but it seems to be more of an organic progression in this. Had he been like this in season 1, it would have felt at home, I guess, or at ease. But it was like just mannerisms, the amount of energy he puts into his lines, even when he is wistful or contemplative in this, it has the same on-screen presence as he did in the original series.
He's
thoughtful.
Thoughtful.
Now, before we get any further, to kind of give you guys exact context, what we're kind of talking about here. So we, as Alex briefly mentioned there, we're going to talk about the first, as of this recording, 6 episodes that have aired.
5 have aired.
5 have aired as of this recording. 6 will be out. 7 will be out fairly shortly after that. And this is kind of our midterm report on Picard, and I guess we can kind of maybe towards the end of the podcast here, we'll kind of maybe share some overall thoughts, because what I said to Alex about this feels like an entirely different show. Like, I remember looking at Alex, I think this was either in the episode 17 seconds or the one after it, Alex. Like, I think I looked you dead in the face like, where the hell was this since season 1?
Yeah,
like
this is Star Trek. This is Star Trek, and
even though there are different directors and there's different writers, every 2 episodes or whatever, it's always a collaborative effort. This you can pinpoint it. It's Terry Matalas being the showrunner and basically being in charge of everything. He's the narrative guy. He's the guy that's out there at all the interviews with all the actors, and it's quite clear. He was listed as co-showrunner for season 2, but he only really showed up near the end, and he directed 1 episode. Like, he was not in control until this season, and it's pretty clear. Like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, he's the savior of the show, but it's quite clear. There is a stark contrast. Whether or not visually it's not been lightened up as much as people would like. That's when the biggest complaint now is the bridge and everything is too dark.
Yeah, it's a miserable workplace environment. Is
what
that is.
That's the biggest complaint this season, comparatively to what the discourse has been like online for the first 2 seasons.
Yeah,
it's pretty clear that there was a substantial change in overall, like, here is the tone, here is the script. It's like everybody was on board. You could tell things were planned a lot more this season.
Yeah, it was thought out beforehand. Absolutely.
Yeah, other than here is the red herring, here's the MacGuffin, here's the standard plot line that production crew on every show, even outside of Trek, always seems to do. Mm-hmm. This might have that a little bit for their B plot, but this is broken up different. This is like multiple episode art. It's almost like we're getting 4 episode like TV movies with each act, and now so it's like there's first 4 episodes is an arc, the next 4 episodes is going to be an arc, and then we're going to get a double part finale. But there's clear thought put into how every aspect of the plot is going to fit together. There's good characterization. You can argue some of the dialogue, episode to episode might be a little inconsistent, but it's a very different feel.
There's a story being told here. There's a story being told with actual characters.
There's another thing too, and one of the things that comes across with this to me, at least in my opinion, there seems to be a different air and atmosphere with just the way lines are delivered, things are performed. This feels like Trek, not just because they're throwing in words like transporters, there's this thing that's leaking. Like, problems are Trekish, they make sense, lines are delivered in a way that doesn't feel hokey. Like, I know me and Alex brought this up like when we were hanging out the other day in season 2. The one lady from Starfleet says to Picard, in your quote unquote fucking hubris.
That's season 1.
Here, yeah. Or sorry, season 1 or whatever. And then the one person, and then Picard says to Captain Shaw, look, I know you're just a dipshit from Chicago. Sure, Picard swore. It was funny, and it actually felt like something Picard actually might say.
And without getting into that, we'll get to that episode, directly when we do. But there's a reason for it, and it was set up earlier, and it's saying something. say something that only you would know, or that would make sense, but out of character. That basically it was to show that he's not a danger. Well, and we'll get to the reason for that, obviously, when we do spoiler discussion. And it was done for a witty reason,
just to lighten the mood. Yeah,
to lighten the mood, and because that is out of character for him to speak like that, and enough out of character that it makes Shaw go, "Oh, I see what you're doing." So again, there's a little thought put into it that way, or a little more thought put into it. Also, even though this has the modern filming techniques, a lot of over-the-shoulder stuff and more close-ups and this and that, and one thing that I think changes the entire tone of this season compared to the last two is these shots have time to breathe.
Yeah, they let them linger.
So,
yep.
Yeah, and it's not obviously not over too long. It's not uncomfortable. It's only uncomfortable if it's meant to be uncomfortable, but it's not the same. You and I and everybody, we'd be happy if it went back to the long stuff of the 90s.
Yeah.
But what this has brought it down. This is more like how First Contact was shot. This is more like I've come to be much more happy with this season when I thought of it in the context of, oh, we're just getting a couple TNG movies we didn't get before. And if I'm thinking of it in, okay, they're playing for a movie audience, they're not playing for a TV audience, this is okay then. I'm okay with this.
What I would have compared it to, filming wise, would have been The Expanse. There's enough motion still in the show to keep it feeling really actiony or more fast paced than what you would have seen back in the 90s. But it's still there to tell a story, so you're letting your camera linger on characters. Which
Battlestar Galactica comes to mind too. It's just not without the shaky cam.
Without the shaky cam, exactly. So I mean, where I think this season generally does show its TNG roots is, as I said, it's actually telling a story.
The one-on-one interactions, when they're sitting there and talking about their emotions, and not in if you look at seasons 1 and 2, the dialogue doesn't sound, when they're trying to be very emotional, when he's being self-reflective, it doesn't sound like dialogue a human would make.
We're being told how they feel rather than being shown, and here we're actually learning how they feel through them trying to explain themselves.
Picard says more when you see the reaction on his face when Shaw is berating him in the holodeck.
Oh, absolutely.
When you see when he realizes what Shaw is going to say, he completely shuts down.
I didn't see it as shutting down.
No, not shutting. He shuts down as in he looked like he was ready to have a rebuttal to whatever he was going to say, and then when he realizes what he's going to say and why he's going to say it, he lets him say it.
He lets him say it because he has no defense for it. That's why he in the end says, "Yeah, that's okay. It's okay."
Exactly. Whereas I feel in season 1 and 2, it would have been a long diatribe about how sorry he is, when it could have all been portrayed in his face, which is what happened in season 3.
Exactly, and that's why Patrick Stewart is a good actor. He's always been a good actor. You just need to give him the material to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, and a lot of things came out about how he had a lot of creative control over how the season and how he was written and the dialogue in season 2. Not all great actors can be great writers. And you can have great input for certain things. I think he was given a little too much leeway to be a little too self-indulgent in season 2. And I mean, he's earned the right to do that in certain projects. I just think it didn't work. And this is a much better, overall. So I guess we should probably summarize episode 1, just because I think we talked about it previously, but if we didn't, and Mike, you weren't there for that. Basically, episode 1 is the introduction to, hey, we're changing everything up. This season is going to be different. Hey, it's going to have a lot of the I guess, hey, remember this moments in it, but at the same time, they're setting a tone that's entirely different than, because I believe we open up on, we open up with Beverly?
We open up with the SS Helios 12. I don't want to set the world on fire.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yes. So we get the member berries moments where they're showing off all little things from deep cuts from TNG. Actually, I think doesn't it opens with Picard at his home getting rid of everything.
Does it?
I seem to recall something about starting to get rid of like a painting, and then they're like that should go to Geordi or something.
It's one of those. I think doesn't it flow? I think it flows between them. He talks a little bit about the Enterprise D with Loris, and then it cuts to Beverly, and it shows some stuff of hers, some stuff of his, some stuff of Jack Crusher's, and basically she's under attack from some unknown alien force.
And by the way, that's the weakest part of this episode, in my opinion. Even though it was great like seeing it was good action. It was just.
But doesn't she have what pops up into my head, because I'm going from memory from several weeks ago now on this?
Mm-hmm.
I just remember pump action phaser rifle.
Phaser. That got my attention.
Pump action phaser that announces very loudly when it's out of ammo, so all your opponents can hear you do it.
So that was one ding on the dumb category.
No, I have another one that's in that. The bad guys are firing. Sound effects are very clearly AK-47s firing.
Nice. Maybe they just are fans.
I don't know. It's one of those things, like, I heard it and I was like, you can't unhear it when you hear it. Like, that's an AK-47.
Oh, yeah. And when we were watching it, it was like, we all watched this separately, but I was making like little mental notes. I'm like, you know what? This is still better.
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
It was already still better. Except for I was like, I didn't know Beverly liked to murder people.
Vaporize them. Yeah.
I mean, I know she'll do it if she has to, but like, I don't remember a time where Beverly didn't give a warning, or, think of I could just stun them and then put them into like cryostasis or something.
Oh.
Nope, just straight up murder.
No, she's murdering them because she wants to make them into ghosts that she can do with.
Yes. Oh, there's that. Yeah, there are memes have been popping up about that. What was it? There's a meme that popped up online of just pictures, still shots from it, and it's her talking to Picard when they're having their big sit down, and she's like, and we were together all these 5 different times, and then you ghosted me, and his response is, I thought you liked that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
Okay.
I thought you were into. I know it's and you have to read it in his voice, and I thought you were into that sort of thing.
Yeah. That's funny.
But yes, and then we get introduced to her son, or her new son, who is like 30, but he's pretending to be 20.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yay, we're back in the 90s when we used to cast like that again.
Good actor though.
Good actor. And when I saw him, immediately I'm like, my first thought is, oh, he's going to be a bad guy, because the last time I saw him was on Outlander, a Ronald D. Moore show, where he plays a very bad man.
Okay.
In the 1700s, basically he's a pirate who loots, pillages, does various very abusive sexual things to people in it, and when he finally gets found out, they punish him, and the punishment is tying him to a stake while the tide is out and letting the tide come in.
Okay.
And I was like, oh man, like I wonder if he got the job because Ron Moore, being Star Trek, right?
Oh.
It wouldn't surprise me if they're like, pick him, but I'm like, I've never seen him play a good guy. He's going to be a bad guy, isn't he? And it's still yet to be known whether he ends up being a bad guy. Probably won't, but you never know. And I don't know if it's not revealed in the first episode, but it's hinted at that he might be Picard's son. And basically the first episode is about getting Riker back together with Picard, and they end up borrowing, in quotes, a shuttle, and then borrowing a ship, and they get in trouble. Boom. End of story. But I think we all sort of liked it. It was a good opening. It was intriguing, but we still were like, we talked for a couple of weeks. The first 2 weeks we were very on the fence of whether or not we were going to like this season or not.
Yeah, because the second season started off fairly strong.
Which I think the first episode was actually written and directed by Terry Matalas of that season.
Maybe. I gave this one, like, the first episode of 5.6 out of 10. Which comparatively, didn't you give the last episode of season 2 a 1? The last episode of season 2, I think I gave...
It was like a 1 or a 2?
Yeah, it was like a 1.1. Yeah.
And that was only for the scenes that had John Delancey in, I think.
No, it was actually like the Starship porn for the most part, because it was actually fairly well done. Like the plot at that point was just complete nonsense. It was
that's right. I remember the comment was they fixed the issue from season 1 of not just cookie cuttering all the ships and all the scales.
That was the only real positive thing I felt.
So that's a big improvement over the finale of season 2 then.
Yes, absolutely.
Also, it gained points in my mind because there was no Elnor, the space elf.
There's some fantastic stuff in this episode, though, like just background pieces. Remember, I'm like Mr. Science and Tech guy and Starships guy.
I mean, and plot wise, this whole season is always going to be hampered down by having Rafi in it. Every single scene that has Rafi is of lower quality because she's in it.
Oh man, see, I like the actress. I actually like the actress.
This is the thing too. I actually like, as an actress, I liked her in a lot of other stuff. She is given the worst dialogue. She's not the right person for this role, and this role is also not written well.
I think she's...
It feels like it's from a different show.
It does, but I think she's so much better in this season, and she has been so much better.
She is, but the overacting is still way over the top compared to everybody else. It's like she's just not getting the character, and I don't understand. I don't know if it's a like a politics thing within the company. What is with the push to try to make her be cool when she's not cool? The character isn't cool. The character is a strung out drug addict who's always on edge and nobody likes.
I don't know. I can see why people might like her. She's not a perfect character.
But nobody does. This is the thing. If you look online, there's been discourse back and forth between, old Trek fans, new Trek fans. You've seen this for the last 5 years or so, right? With all the different shows. Universally, that character isn't liked. She's the new Wesley.
I guess I don't think she's a very interesting character. That's fair, but I don't hate her.
Like you could take her out of this season, and nothing would change.
Ooh,
she's inconsequential.
Worf
could have done everything without her.
Yes, but then again, we haven't seen the whole season yet, so I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, as of halfway through the season, she hasn't even been the analog for the viewer. There's nothing she's been in that she had to be in because Worf was there doing the same thing.
The only thing she was there to do, and I'm going to agree with Alex on this point, is there's a point she's in a fight with Worf to fool somebody, and she's there to best Worf. She's there to set up jokes for Worf. Think about that, Alex. Every time Worf said something funny, she's trying to be all serious and John Wick badass, and he's like, I'm bleeding quite profusely. I must consult a medical doctor. And she's like, oh yeah, I didn't mean to hurt you.
The only good thing she did was set him up for the tea joke.
Yeah.
And it's couldn't this have been a different character? Why did it have to be her other than that she was under a contract maybe and they had to use her? Why couldn't the surprise have been, and I mentioned this, I think, to Mike, I don't know if I mentioned this on recording or on air, why couldn't, instead of Rafi, why couldn't we have just seen some other Starfleet officer and then have it turn out like surprise, surprise, it's revealed it's like O'Brien's daughter. Like, why couldn't we have had a younger actor? Like, why couldn't it have been one of the children from Enterprise or from DS9 or even somebody from Voyager that just has grown up?
Sure,
and
I see what you're saying.
Like, what? Like, if you had to have this character,
who would have been cool here to help Worf, in my opinion, and this is probably not going to be a popular one. I would have liked to have seen Tuvok here. Because he's done deep.
Hasn't he gone crazy at this point?
No, because he got back to the Alpha Quadrant, so he's had that kind of treatment. Plus, he's done deep undercover work before with Starfleet intelligence.
But I mean, if they wanted to like keep you guessing as to what this character is and what they're doing or who they are, you could have used somebody like it's just I don't know why they kept.
Or Garrett Wong could have done it.
I don't know why they kept this new character. They dropped the other characters except. Seven wasn't a new character, but they dropped all the other characters from the other seasons. Why did they keep her? She's the character nobody liked.
She was the one that was willing to stay. They probably wanted everybody.
Or she was the one that was under a 3-year contract. Who knows? But and again, I feel bad because I have liked her in a lot of other shows and programs she's done. I feel like if you removed almost every scene that she's a part of, the B plot with Worf is kind of sucky right now, because every time they transition from the ship to the ground, it looks like a really, really, really low budget sci-fi TV.
It's a very different show when it goes to Worf and Raffi. That's fair. I will agree with that.
And I mean, I'm really not trying to harp on it too much. It's just it's kind of jarring. Like the best episode of the season so far had no Raffi scenes.
That is true. I don't know if it is because of that, because I would say in my notes that I do give positives to some of the scenes with Worf and Raffi. But
if they're together, they're fine. It's just a lot of it is pacing seems odd. Things seem like it's almost like everything in the show has slowed down. A little more, in line with TNG. And she's still moving at the pace of seasons 1 and 2 in her dialogue and how she's moving. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, take it down from a 10, take it down to a 7. Mm-hmm. Or we should, calm down a bit. You're like the way she's been written. It's not the actress's fault if that's what they're wanting out of her, but it just seems it's very odd that she seems very out of place now.
Okay.
And maybe it'll get better as it goes on. I think it could. If they are clearly trying to make this the nostalgia trip season where we're going to get as many people back as we can, I would have thought if they're really trying to pluck on your nostalgia, feelings, you might want to go with the character instead of her in that role. Or a completely new person.
I understand
maybe
what you're
somebody
saying.
Completely new.
I understand what you're saying, and I think that if we didn't have Raffi from season 1 and 2 in our heads watching those scenes, season 3 Raffi would be acceptable. I'm not saying great. I'm just saying acceptable.
Yeah, I think what also bugs me. She's the only character in the entire show with goofy raccoon makeup on, like where they like she looks like she's ready. She's got war paint on, ready to go to war. It's like nobody else in the show has like that. Is it trying to like emphasize maybe that she's still on drugs? Like I don't get it. Like it doesn't. It looks odd because it's not like she's an alien, but it's not like anybody on Earth has that 1/4 inch like commando makeup on.
Talk about positive things.
And it's just
in episode 1.
Yeah, we'll talk about positive. Yeah, I'm trying to get all the negative out. The negative is just something feels odd. I can't pinpoint it. Something. It looks like like Mike. It looks like a different show. It looks like I'm watching something like Lex when she's in it, or.
Actually, hold on, because Aaron will know exactly what I'm talking about, but it was Alex that you mentioned this. We're watching this where it's Raffi and Worf on the planet, and Alex goes to me, Mike, does this look like Shadowrun to you?
Yeah, because it's kind of, it looks like a cyberpunk-ish setting on the planet, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, well, that's an interesting way to backdoor pilot something.
But it's very jarring. Like it's almost like, and are they setting it up for Worf and her to have their own show that looks different?
I'm kind of
Oh,
wondering if
come
I have to
on!
be
I
honest.
don't know if Michael Dorn would do that.
It's a payday.
Or are they setting it up for Raffi to have her own show?
I think they're going to be testing the waters. I mean, I know if I was a network executive, I would be paying very close attention to what people are saying.
That set looks a lot cheaper to
I
film in.
think that they're more likely trying to figure out what will work for the Section 31 show. How much violence they can get away with, how much, okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch a Section 31 show.
So yeah, it was either episode 1 or 2. Do we see Worf? No, we don't see him until episode 2. I don't remember what happens in episode 2. I remember everything.
I have my
3,
notes
4, and 5,
but let me talk about some
episode
Starship geekery from episode 1, if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
We get to see Eagle Moss models in episode 1 in the bar. If you did not notice all the little models, like
I thought so.
But you know what one of the models that we see in there is? The Federation class Dreadnought, which has never been seen on screen before, but now it's theoretically canon and shouldn't have been there. Because it was designed by Franz Joseph, and Franz Joseph did not give the rights for it. It was meant as set dressing, and somebody snuck the Federation class Dreadnought on there. It's the 3-nacelle TOS era starship. I don't know if you've ever seen the Starfleet technical manual from like the 70s. I'm speaking Greek, aren't I?
I understand most of it. Mostly because I've read the tech manual.
Okay.
But I get
it's
you.
there, and it was supposed to be set dressing, and supposedly that was a mistake. I love that. Because I've just never got to see it on screen before. I think that's great. I'm not like one of those like Operation Dreadnought stands that must have it on there. But
I saw them and I was like, some of them I didn't recognize, but I'm not as steeped in the lore as you guys are.
I was about to say,
two. There was only 2, and it was the Enterprise D. I think I only saw in the first episode it was Enterprise D and 1 Federation Dreadnought. We get to see Titan, the Titan A in this episode, and it's talked about as a Neo Constitution or Constitution 3 class. It's also supposed to have 500 crew. We learn. Hope you guys heard that on there, and I'm not like, okay,
yes,
it is supposed to be huge, okay, because it has 500 crew.
Okay.
It's supposed to be something like 500 and something meters long.
How many crew was on the Enterprise D?
Enterprise D was 1,000, a little less.
I was going to say because that's.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
Neo Constitution or Constitution 3 class, like the Titan A here, you can tell exactly how large it is because you know how big those windows are, and it very clearly in the first episode shows docking ports on it. So you can tell exactly how big that is, and it is actually smaller than a standard Constitution class.
Maybe people got shorter in the future.
Yeah, I mean, if it was as big as the designers say it should be, the orbital shuttle pod, like the thing that Kirk and Scotty take over to Enterprise in the motion picture, in order for it to be the size, Titan A to be the size that they say it is, shuttle pods need to be 3 decks high now in order for it to be to match up with what we actually see. The CGI model of Titan A is amazingly detailed. Amazingly.
Yeah, scale seems to be always the thing that they have the most trouble with. And I mean, it makes sense when you're not building a physical model to base things on. It can be hard, like especially like when they're flying, they'll fly a shuttle and you're like, that shuttle now looks too big compared to the ship. You know what I mean? That sort of stuff. So I mean, I guess the solution would be to build a physical model that to then have the CG people work
Here's
with.
the thing,
but that's too
Doug
expensive.
Drexler helped design this ship, right? And he's an incredibly detail-oriented person, right?
And the Okudas are on staff. I saw it in the credits.
And you can sit there and count the decks of Titan A. You can count the decks. It is a smaller ship, like standard Constitution. which means when you see it leave dry dock here, well, space dock, I should say, in episode 1, space dock, even though this new space dock is supposed to be huge compared to the old space dock, it's actually smaller than the old space dock because you know exactly how big Titan A should be because of those docking ports. It gets crazy. What I'm trying to say is, like, it is not a big ship, but the ship model is so highly detailed that people really put time and effort into designing that ship, and I want to give credit where credit's due. It's beautiful.
It looks movie quality.
Absolutely beautiful. So,
and that's, you know, that was a good introduction, I guess, to episode
sorry for
1,
babbling on about science and tech stuff. Yeah.
Oh no. I mean, this is good because these are the things that sometimes if you're watching, you might have in the back of your head. You'd be like, something seems different. What's going on here? And it's because you're so used to seeing so many episodes where the scales are different, and you're like, oh, okay, this.
So it
makes
doesn't
sense.
have a crew of 500, even though they say it has a crew of 500. It since it's actually smaller than Voyager, like
It would have to be like 300.
it would actually be more like 90 to 100 people.
Because Voyager has a max crew complement of about 150, if I'm not mistaken.
And if you look in some of when the episodes are on, like, obviously there's crew constraints, but like it would make sense based on the most recent episode where they were transporting people off the ship. Like, they had 90% of the crew transported off within like 10 minutes. It would take a lot longer than that. If you had 500 people to transport at like 6 at a time.
I would wonder where they put 500 people on that ship.
Cargo base, maybe.
Like, yeah,
I mean, it also depends on how many aliens do we have on the crew that are like 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
Also, Aaron, because you're a ship dork like me, did you like? I found it very interesting how they called the ship the Intrepid, but I guess the original Intrepid's no longer in service by now.
5 Intrepid.
Yeah,
it would be. It's a new Intrepid. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I figured. But would that not constitute it calling the USS Intrepid because it's a new ship class?
No. See, the A things, people way overuse it. The A thing on Enterprise, the letter thing on Enterprise was like an honorary thing because it was Enterprise was the flagship of the Federation, and 1701 was such a legendary starship. Even its number was notable. So retiring that number was like, no, we can't do that. So giving a starship an A was like, this was Enterprise's thing. And it really shouldn't go for other starships. So having like a Titan A with a legacy registry number, I don't buy it. Not with the arguments that I've seen online, but
so it would have to be another ship that had a certain amount of
yes.
prestige.
And according to like background tweets, we learned that there was a Titan in the movie era, captained by Savick, that supposedly was the flagship of the Federation as well in like the 4 months that there was no Enterprise.
When the other one disappeared?
One blew up and Kirk was traveling back in time to save the whales.
Okay. which sounds so silly outside of the fandom that we're in, right?
Excuse me, no. It would have actually been between the point of time in Star Trek after Star Trek 6, where Enterprise A was retired and Enterprise B was not launched, and I think there's like 10-month time period between those two launches.
So are we talking when Kirk was in the Nexus?
Right before then.
Okay.
But that Titan had like a 1700 registry number. And supposedly it was flagship of the Federation because Spock recommended Savick, or Sulu recommended Savick. And it's a tiny ship. It was a tiny ship, and there were other constitutions, and you would think that Starfleet would go, no, our flagship for the time being should be Excelsior, because that's kind of like top of the line. amazing starship. So if that was the flagship, you would think that the legacy registry would be the NCC 17, whatever it was, -A for Titan instead of Riker's Titan. Because they also gave the background on what Riker did, and what Riker did seemingly wasn't anywhere as impressive as what Savick did with Titan from the late 23rd century. I know I'm babbling here, but like,
No, but that's
I don't
that's
like
interesting.
legacy registry numbers. Like for Enterprise, it made sense, but for anything else, it's kind of like, all right, well, fine. You can have the ship names that are the same. A new Intrepid, absolutely, a new Titan. Just that legacy registry number should be one of those things that so incredibly rare that you only see it really once or twice. Because the U.S. Navy put a legacy registry number based on Enterprise from World War II. Even though that's still
So
the highest awarded, most decorated vessel on the planet out of any navy. It has awards from other nations,
Basically-
and there's no legacy registry
Yeah,
number for it.
it would be like in Japan, the Yamato sort of thing. Like it's become almost folklore.
Well, sort of, but having another ship named Yamato is completely okay. It's using the same number
Yeah.
on its hull.
Yeah.
It's even stranger. So like,
So in Star Trek, like maybe you give the Defiant
No.
the same one.
oh, I wouldn't.
No?
I wouldn't.
Not even
or
that, eh?
Voyager, even though Voyager arguably did something incredible by surviving its journey back home. What
Maybe you don't want to curse the ship with the same name.
the same name
in
is
that
fine.
case.
Again, the names are fine. It's
Or
the
yeah.
number that is the actual legacy thing, the -A. So
I guess that makes because if the argument is with the Enterprise, it's the ship that basically launched the Federation.
yes, and every ship.
Right, like with Archer, right? Like so, the idea is you would want to keep that because it's literally the foundation of our
But
union.
it's more like Kirk's Enterprise was so amazing that that's the number that stuck around.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because it was just NXL1, right?
Even though Archer's Enterprise was fantastic and it was damn near legendary, still didn't deserve like a legacy
Yeah.
registry number. Because you remember, you don't call the 1701D Enterprise D universe. You wouldn't say that. It's Enterprise CC 1701-D because it's the legacy registry number. So new starships with the same name as an old starship, totally cool, absolutely cool. Registry numbers to me are just kind of weird. You can make whatever excuse you want to have it in your show. That's fine. I'm okay with it. Just that it should be a rare thing, and it should be
Fair
like,
enough. I get it. That makes perfect sense. It does. No, it's all good. So episodes 1 and 2. 2, we get established that, or it's hinted and revealed that that it's actually Picard's son.
Yeah.
They're on the run from this mysterious, lady bounty hunter and her ship called the Shrike, which I looked up. Interesting reference. So it is another bird of prey, technically. A Shrike is a bird that grabs worms and bugs and even mice and other even baby squirrels and stuff, and it will impale them on spikes and then eat them while they're alive.
It's awful.
So, but the parallels to the show where she's like, "I'm going to pick you off one by one." That's literally a reference to the Shrike. It's a reference to the actual bird.
Yeah,
that
and I
does
like that ship design. It's very cool.
It's to me, it looks like almost an evolution of Shinzon's ship in Nemesis.
And I think that's what they're kind of trying to make you think of too, in a weird way.
Because the as much as some people were divided on that movie, I always liked the movie. I it's the only Trek movie, of classic Trek, that I was able to see in theaters personally. I didn't. Well, I was like, my parents didn't take me to see a lot of movies, and remember, I was like 9 when First Contact came out. And I didn't know Insurrection was in theaters. I rented them both on video when my local video store had them, and I was like, "Wow, there's Star Trek. There's new Star Trek movies." I thought that all the movies were just with the old crew. I didn't even know Generations existed because pre-internet for me.
I'm the old fogey.
And that's the thing. It's like, I was always excited when I see new stuff. So I saw Nemesis in theaters, and people were dressed up. Like there was like at least 10 people waiting to see it when I saw it that were in full gear. And most of us had a good time there. There were some fans that were there. I remember griping about things here and there. And the biggest consensus among people were, well, this wasn't the greatest one. You know what? Maybe the next one's going to be better. And then the next one didn't happen till, I guess, now. But the one consensus that everybody had watching it was the best parts of the movie were the standoffs, with the scimitar. That's what it was called, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the standoffs, and then of course the ramming speed, that whole scene. That's what everybody remembers from it is the cat and mouse game. Then when the Romulans came and they had to team up, like that's all the good stuff. And we get that here. We don't get the team up, but we get the cat and mouse, the very Wrath of Connie sort of stuff. And then of course we're setting things up, and then we hit the two episodes that we are probably going to have the most to talk about here, episodes 3 and 4. I forget the names of them off the top of my head, but what's interesting is I'll just very briefly mention this show doesn't have the full theme song that the first two seasons would have, where they would have a theme song that had like an long intro representing sort of what was happening in the season. Here we're getting sort of a very short intro, and they're calling each part. It's not like season 3. They're calling it Star Trek Picard Part This, and it's like we're watching a mini series, and then it's reusing musical themes from TNG and then some of the other films. So it's interesting what they've done here. They've changed the way the tone of the show is, just even having its intro change like that. And in this third and fourth episodes, we get the most character-driven moments there's more character development in these 2 episodes than 20 episodes previously.
Absolutely. And it is well acted, well paced. Like in episode 3, we have the conversation between Beverly and Picard, and maybe it's because we had years to get to know these characters. Maybe it's because of that. I don't know, but them having this like much needed conversation about their relationship, what they've done together, why it didn't work, why Beverly didn't tell Picard about Jack, why Picard feels like this was something that he needed to know about, that he needed to have the information to even be able to make an educated choice rather than not being allowed to make a choice. You can see where both of the characters are coming from. They're both right, they're both wrong in their own ways, and it's wonderful.
They're flawed, but in a very believable way. And also, the other thing to take into account is they weren't, when she got pregnant, they weren't, young dumb kids. They like she, like, and I've seen some people like make comments online that maybe aren't like super deep or thinking super deep into the Trek. They're like, how is she's got a 20-year-old. How is she having a kid if she's supposed to be like 80 something in this? It's like, because it's like, you realize that like 50 years ago, you were really old if you had a kid at 40.
This is a deal. This is a deal.
It's like we're in a future where people regularly live a significant amount of time longer and healthier due to modern medicine, even now. So if the average life expectancy from 100 years ago went from being like 55 to 80, and this is without alien technology, we're talking several hundred years in the future. What's the average lifespan? Like 150 or 200 or something?
It's not like that. Humans are like about 120.
Okay, so like 120. It's still, that would mean that it's potential that the viability to have a child, you can have a child
Absolutely.
in your 60s
Can
at that point, because again, 50 years ago, it was very rare for women in their mid 40s to have kids. So like it was just you were expected to have kids between the ages of like 16 and 30, and that was it. And now people aren't even starting families a lot of the times until they're in their 40s. So you got to sort of think in the mindset of a future where a woman might be fertile like 20 years longer.
Picard is 96 in this season. Characters
Yeah,
And a robot.
He's supposed to be 96. Just FYI. I'll have to figure out.
I hope I look that good when I'm 90s.
Well, and if Beverly, like that's what I'm saying, like I don't know her exact age she's supposed to be in this, but like if they knew each other in the academy, you know, it's easy to believe that she's supposed to be somewhere in
She's
his realm of age or
77
close to it.
in this season.
Okay, so she was 57 when she had that's not it's rare, very rare now, but it wouldn't be unheard of in the future when, you know, a woman might not hit menopause till
It makes
60
complete sense to
or
me.
70 when you
Makes complete sense to me.
yeah, when you live to be 120 and middle age is 60 to 65 or 70, you know, that makes sense then. So I think that debunks anybody that's complaining about that. So I mean, they had good moments together. Everything made sense. They were believable together in this, the way they talked. Riker in this, I've come to the realization, Riker is movie Riker.
Ooh.
Okay. In the way, in the amount of comedy he's getting.
Sure. Okay.
In the quippy, in not movie Riker as in I didn't mean that as a bad thing. If anybody was thinking it's a bad thing, movie Riker in the quips that he gets to have back and forth. Like I'm fully expecting when they meet up with Worf, there's going to be a bunch of funny little like jabs and pokes between them, sort of thing. Like this is, you know, where he gets to be a little more. He's more playful in here. Like you see, even the look in his eyes when he's talking to certain characters. Except, you know, serious moments are serious, obviously, but like the moments when they're on their own or they're getting to have their little speeches together, he feels more like he's in the movies versus you know, the show. And that might have to do with the fact that he's now the, you know, an authority figure, if not the authority figure, versus having to, you know, be under somebody's command. And I mean, I did like the third episode. Had probably, I don't know if I like the third or fourth episode better. I think
I have the fourth down as a 7.8 out of 10, which you understand how I rate things. That's very high.
And that's for Trek, which is already a harder curve than your regular science fiction level.
And episode 3 I gave a 6.2, which is still very good.
Yeah, it's setting things up. And I remember when the third episode finished, we had a discussion. Mike hadn't seen it yet because we ended up watching it after. But you and I mentioned to each other, like both right around the same time, is this the best episode of Trek, of New Trek, like of the newer stuff? Like the first couple episodes were about on par with what we liked from Strange New Worlds. I would say some parts of Strange New Worlds were better, but that might have just been because the budget seems bigger for that show.
And the actors and actresses
things
are very charismatic. And in Strange New Worlds.
Yes. And that show is going for a sort of pseudo 60s throwback chic
which
feel.
Is obviously going to tweak our nostalgia buttons.
Yeah. Where like that even though that show looks like a show film now, it has much more of the TOS feel. Even the Goofy episodes that they did of that felt more like 60s Goofy than modern Goofy, if that makes any sense. So it is a little different, but like we had that discussion. We're like, wow, this is if this is what it's going to be like for the rest of the season. That's where I was like, all right, let's watch another episode, because the plot of episode 3 is just it's the tension builder.
Yes,
for the arc of this. And this is where we sort of came to the realization that this isn't going to be a giant long season arc. There's going to be a B plot and a C plot that carry the season forward. But like it's not like the last 2 seasons where it's one long story. It's looking like we're getting 2 or 3 multi-episode arcs, and where it's like, okay, so this is what's happening here. Like they were building to the big tension moment, and the big conflict in here that I was interested to see, because you didn't really see that on the original show really much, if at all, is the big clash that we got between Riker and Picard over how to handle the no-win scenario.
One criticism about episode 3 would have been that conflict between Riker and Picard right at the end, because the conflict through the whole of episode 3 in general was really well done. Like, yeah, you can have a disagreement and be professionals.
The professional dilemma and the personal dilemma, like I get what they were going for with Riker's
right
mentality.
At the end of that episode, though, where he goes, "You've killed us all. Get off my bridge." And I'm like, wow, that is one of the most unprofessional conduct, unbecoming of an officer action that I've seen out of Riker. That seems so wildly out of character. It's, dude, you're the captain. You agreed with his line of action. You gave the orders. Do not accuse the old man who you agreed with of causing all of these problems. You are as much to blame, and you just made a big problem in front of junior officers on the bridge.
That's the line I would have expected from the Riker that was going crazy in the Parallels episode where the Borg had taken over.
That's my criticism of episode 3.
No, I that's it.
Like
if he was all disheveled and he was screaming, "No, I won't go back," then I'd be like, that's the kind of line that would have come from him, not from
otherwise.
Riker.
This was a good episode, a very good episode.
And we end on the cliffhanger there, and then episode 4 airs. And Mike, did you have anything to add to episode 3?
I liked it. Sorry, you guys haven't let me get a word in edgewise.
Sorry, buddy.
I like what I've seen. Like it's a dramatically different show from the writing, from just the way, and I come from newly educated creative writing. There's emotion in each scene. Chemistry's actually there, which is not something you can say was really present. Now you can say an actor has charisma. Like I know Alex doesn't like Alison Pill as Girardi, but you can't deny she had charisma, but she had no chemistry with anybody on scene, or if it did happen, it was exceptionally rare. Almost everybody here has charisma and chemistry, the exception being Raffi, outside of a few minor moments. Everything that is working with this season 3, episode 3 that you guys are kind of talking about, the thing that I really liked is you're seeing Picard evolve into a different type of character, and it's something that I think that's been a long time in coming, because I know in some of the pre-season interviews this is going to deal a lot with kind of legacy. And Aaron, you were talking about this a couple moments ago about how Picard was never given a choice to know that he was a father, and when Beverly says if Jack was known to be the son of Jean-Luc Picard, he would have had a target on his back from the moment he could walk. And that's something that I think this season deals with in a very interesting way, is the idea of hero worship. Because you think about that, Beverly's not wrong. And could I have made the same decision? You know what? It's that Sophie's choice. Maybe I'm not wrong for thinking this, because everybody says, oh, that's Captain Picard, he'll save the day. Captain Picard's an old man, and all it takes is somebody with a phaser or a bomb or something to take out your family. If Beverly ran to protect her son, because nobody cares about the rest of the crew, maybe Data, maybe Riker, maybe, but she's just Beverly Crusher. No one cares. She can go live her life and do whatever she wants without constantly being under threat. Wherever Captain Picard goes, he tries to go out for frigging lunch one day, and he can't even take a bite of his sandwich because nobody will leave him alone. Everywhere you go, you will be followed. And I don't blame her. I don't. And I know that says...
Good point on that with the lunch thing too. You're right, because that was... Yeah, it was, it was getting ready for, what was it, Foundation
Day or something? Well, he was just having a random lunch.
What do they call it? Yeah, and people come up, and it's clear he, like, he sort of pretends he doesn't like it, but he does like the attention.
Yeah,
Because-
and like it's just something about that too. And then not too long before that scene happens, I don't know if it's episode 3 or 4. I've lost count at this point. There's a scene where Shaw's talking about the day he met Picard. He's like, "Oh yeah, you know, the first day I met him, Stardate,
That's
blah
episode
blah
4,
blah blah
and
blah."
That's one of the most amazing damn
Yeah.
scenes in the season.
Yeah, that's one of the highlights in Trek, in my opinion, since Enterprise, because that's PTSD,
Yeah.
and this is a character who was mostly written for laughs. But when you get that guy in a moment, that manic, depressive energy, somebody who looked in the abyss, saw his friends die, was when he says the point when this lieutenant came down and said, you, and you get it in the escape pod. That's an order. Survivor's guilt is a real
it is.
fucking thing. And it's something Trek has never particularly dealt with well, in my opinion. Voyager had a few moments where they kind of deal with it, but it was always, hey, we're better by next episode.
Well, Cisco, like that was a key stick issue, you know, with even the pilot for DS9, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know why he does not like
Also,
Picard.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that, and that reason is his wife on the ship.
Yeah. But you have to wonder how many other Starfleet officers feel like this way about Picard. Like everybody has him as this iconic hero. Oh, he's the man who saved humanity and all that. Yeah. But you killed my dad.
Especially
or you killed my wife.
Especially if you look, it's all except for the pure fucking hubris lady. It's everybody that knew him before Locutus respects and loves him. All of the Trek people, all the kids that weren't born when this happened, look up to him as some war hero, some hero of the Federation.
It's the people that were at Wolf 359.
It's the people that were at Wolf 359. It's the people that were serving, that weren't captains, that knew him beforehand. That
the rank and file.
That were serving after, that are now captains.
Mm-hmm.
It's this. There's the generation, his generation, and the generation, not the one right after him, but the one after that, like him, but his immediate successful generation that came after. That there's a whole group that will probably not like him or not trust him, and because a lot of the people that he served with are now retired and aren't even in Starfleet, so it's not the same Starfleet that he would have known.
Yeah, like that's something I really like about this season, really dealing with the aspect of legacy. Like it's not just what we leave behind in our lives because we're still alive. Like history is very much still being written, and Picard has kind of let history make its own narrative about him, in my opinion, because he's like, oh yeah, I'm this, and he likes the attention, as you pointed out, and he likes to tell stories at lunch, but
He also
you know,
gave up trying to
sometimes
save the
you're not
Romulans.
necessarily.
He let history write something
Yeah,
about
like-
him that wasn't true.
Yeah, there's very good writing in this, yeah, and I like the idea of subtlety and subtext and saying something without having it plastered and flashing neon lights or whatever. The thing that I like most about season 3 so far is, you're right, Aaron, you said this about a half hour ago. Like this is Trek being told with characters, with feeling, with emotion, with real stakes. And when you see Patrick Stewart act this, like there's a moment when you guys get to the Roe kind of lair and stuff, which, by the way, this podcast could almost be a 2-parter at this point, boys.
Well, no, don't worry. It's not that much to get to, but yeah, I know what you mean.
But yeah, like there are some moments genuinely in here where we're closing the loop on some plot threads that have been hanging for 25 plus years. And this is something that Star Trek is finally getting a chance to close certain loops. And I'm loving how well it's finally paying off. I'm more upset at season 3 for this reason. This is what season 1 should have been. This should have been resolving old things to reward old people who've watched the show for 20, 30, whatever years, and to get new people interested to seeing, okay, where did this start? Season 3, as we've mentioned, has been a wonderful nostalgia trip, but some of it has been largely inconsequential. I'm looking at you, Rafi. But you look at the story that's being painted, and even the idea of Picard's son, you could call that hokey, but I like the fact
we don't know where it's going yet either.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I like the fact that you see panic in this guy's face and in how he reacts. And yeah, he's got that I'm Jason Bourne moment in one part, which is ridiculous. But
the red door, the blood connects, the blood cells, and I keep thinking, are we going to see the Black Pyramid back there? Is he seeing what happens when bridge crew members die and get revived?
The great qual at the end of the universe, yeah.
Yeah, like
are we seeing that? Like, I mean, that's an element that's a little bit of a holdover from the hokey stuff that the Abrams verse kind of stuff that they would do in their TV shows, even outside of Trek. It's like, okay, it is what it is, but I did like when, like you're saying there, like his reactions to it when they're like, how did you took out 4, changelings. We'll get to that here in a moment, but with the plot, and he's like, I didn't know there were changelings, and it's like he's scared of what he's scared because he doesn't know how he did it or what he did.
Where he looks terrified of himself. Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes, I was just about to bring that up because he says, I think there's something wrong with me. And I would like to know how many takes that took. I really have a feeling, just from my limited experience with acting, I think that was one of the shots. They're like, you know what? You got it. Let's move on. Because that's just a moment you can capture in time where only in my opinion, that super professional actors who've been doing it for like 30, 40 years, they get a few moments like that in their career. I think this is one of that actor's big moments where like he nailed that moment. Stakes are high. And then guess what, guys? Got to tune in next week. I love that. And I really, really appreciate that about this season because everything has just been elevated so much. And I know I'm putting this up on a pedestal despite we've had some goofy moments, but everything so far has worked for me. And I said this to Alex while we were kind of watching. I haven't been excited to watch a Trek like this since Lower Decks. I love Lower Decks. I love Prodigy. I haven't gotten in the Strange New Worlds. I know, shoot me. But this is exciting. I'm actually legitimately excited to look forward to an episode of Picard. Why do you have to be over in 4 hours?
Well, when this is over, Mike, what the advantage is, you can then go and watch Strange New Worlds in preparation for season 2, which is supposed to be coming later this year, right? So,
yet. I mean, it is good.
I'm so
there's like, I think one episode where I would say that you could skip it. Some other people would disagree with me.
Although it's probably the Renaissance one, which is one of my favorites.
I'm like, I didn't even rate it because I'm like, this isn't Star Trek. It's a standalone.
I took it in my head.
Not Star Trek.
In my head, I took it out as
not in a bad way. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying like this is so not a standard Star Trek episode that I can't really rate it as that.
Mike, they wake up one day and the entire ship has been turned into a little girl's imagination of a fairy tale.
So like that episode of Voyager where they found the imaginary friend of Neelix's? Or stupider.
Captain Pike is now a wimpy jester. Everybody is like Ren Fair stuff. And they're basically having to act out a Dungeons and Dragons
They don't
campaign.
know they're doing it.
Yeah, they don't know they're doing it. The only person that knows that it's happening is
Mbenga and Hemmer.
Hemmer, the
Mbenga and Hemmer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mbenga and Hemmer. And Hemmer, because he's blind, it's his optical sensors or whatever. He wasn't affected by whatever happened. So the entire episode, he's just like, "What the fuck is happening with you people?" And they're all like dressed like pretty princesses and talking in ye olde English.
Okay.
And he's like, "What is going on?" He's like, "Cease this, please stop." And then and then like, Mbenga's like, "Well, look at you." And he's like, "Play along." He's like, "Anything to make this stop." and then like the whole time, like Pike is hamming it up worse than like than like
But
Shatner
it's
ever did,
purposeful. Yeah,
and it's
it's
like
my
way
God.
over the top. But yeah, the episode is brilliant. It's terrible Trek, but it's brilliant. Like it's the most fun the actors had. You could almost see them almost breaking in every scene. Like it was very hard for them to get all the shots. It's worth watching, Mike, but it doesn't fit.
I'm
Oh,
okay with,
God.
like that's why I said it, since it doesn't fit, you can skip it and not miss anything. But it is fun in its own way.
Yeah, but yeah, getting back to, you'll like it, Mike. Believe me. Getting back to this, so this episode was how does everybody deal with the idea that like they're on borrowed time, and like you said, going to the holodeck. I don't know, had it ever been explained before that the holodeck
God,
has
don't
a
get me
separate
started.
power
Don't
source
get me
from the
started.
warp core?
No,
Okay,
yeah.
So
I
sorry.
noticed that too, Aaron.
We'll save that. We'll just say that's not true. Or we'll say that it's solar powered.
Why
It's
would you
solar
have
powered on a different,
an emergency power reactor for a holodeck when you'd most likely rather have that hooked up to your life support so you could all have breathable air?
Can we just wave our hands and say it's because of the holographic doctor from
and
Voyager?
here's the biggest argument against that. You say, oh, it's here as like a way to escape, when things are bad and the ship is burning up, that you can go to the holodeck and spend your last moments happy.
And when the answer would be no, you'd be spending your last moments doing anything
Exactly,
you can to
because you
save
know
the ship.
what sucks is you have an engineering team desperately patching the hull, and then half of them put down their freaking tools to go screw in the holodeck. No, sir.
Let's ignore. So we're gonna ignore it. I had to mention it. I'm sorry I had to bring it up, but we had to mention it. But we were talking about closing loops, Michael. The one of our fears was, is Shaw going to be an asshole for no reason for this whole season, just because they want to make a snarky asshole? And it's like,
Yeah.
no. They fixed the biggest issue that I had from episode 1 was, outside of my not irrational hate, but my dislike of Rafi was, is this going to be a whole season of this guy being over the top asshole for no reason? No, we get one of the best performances of the show in literally he's basically he's ignored his mental health for so long that his post-traumatic stress has internalized and made him extremely bitter and apathetic to his own job, and he admits it in front of the crew there. And we see a little in that episode, and the episode after we see he's still an asshole, but we see an uptick in his personality. It's almost like letting it out fine. Like this had been boiling in him for obviously 25-30 years as it is, but and exasperated much worse when he saw who showed up on his ship. That's why he was even more of a dick, and this finally let him
as
get
Mike,
it out.
you said, it's survivor's guilt that he was just podunk dude in engineering, and the ship was burning around him, and he made it to the lifeboats, and there was one lifeboat left. No one wanted to get on the lifeboat because there wasn't enough room, and then like a lieutenant showed up and ordered like random people onto the lifeboat, including him. And I showed Darlene this scene, and she hasn't been into Picard because she was really burned on the first two seasons, but she was like, oh my God, because that lieutenant died, and that he couldn't say thank you to the one lieutenant, the one person who basically just randomly saved his life. And now he has no idea why he lived, just random happenstance, right?
Well, and he even said like he wasn't skilled. It wasn't like he was better. There were other people that were maybe better and more qualified. They just pointed random fingers, and one's pointed at me. And then he goes, 11 people of his ship, potentially survived, or however many, who knows, were blown up out there. But he mentions, wasn't it like 6,000 or 8,000 people over it, or whatever? Maybe it was from whatever, like thousands of people just dead right there, and he's floating away, and he's just like, all it would have taken. Like, that lieutenant could have taken half a second longer and pointed at somebody right next to him. So there's that. You have that lingering in you the whole time, and then you see face to face the face of your torment.
11,000 dead. 11,000.
and being a very intelligent man himself anyway, knowing at his core, the logical part of his core, that this wasn't Picard's fault. It wasn't his fault that this happened. But he's still the cause.
Yeah, exactly.
You're still the cause. Like in his head, he's like, even though I know it's not your fault, you're the cause, and you're still praised.
Yeah.
Why does everybody
here,
get to forgive?
And the people that I served with and I saw burn in front of my eyes aren't.
And so you deal with and you see that, and he's never going to be lovey-dovey with them, but you see he was able to get it out, and we see over the next this episode and the episode after that he does fix his relationship with Seven.
Yeah.
For the most part, to the point where there is an actual amount of he admits he did not have enough respect for her for what she had gone through, because he wasn't mad. He was mad at her because he sees Picard through her. Any Borg that comes back is still
the enemy,
potentially
still the enemy.
cutest.
See, folks, if you can't tell, the fact that we're just kind of talking about aspects of episodes that are going across different episodes should say that there's meat in this season.
Yeah, and we're not going as deep or as asinine into it as possible. These are just things that pop out at us.
They're so good that we can just sit here and talk about them for however long we've been recording. We could still go on.
And and we're going to go just a few minutes more. Just basically rapid fire here with this fourth episode. We have all this going on. We have Riker is trying to record essentially his wartime letter, in the event of my death, please send this to my loved ones, to Deanna. And he starts trying to record it. He can't finish it. He doesn't know what to do. He's still tormented by his own guilt over just having to bury his own child, years prior. And that is rightfully brought up by Picard, not in the most tactful way possible, as clouding his judgment for his own crew. He's unwilling to put anybody at risk, and the unwillingness to put anybody at risk is actually making things worse. It's just not said in the nicest way possible, and that's part of their main conflict. And all the while, sort of the B plot, there's the C plot, I guess, with Raffi and Worf, where they're trying to uncover where the portal gun is. By the way, we didn't mention that, but the portal gun's kind of cool. Basically, it's literally, if you've played the video game Portal, it's the portal gun. You fire one point of entry, something goes into the portal, and it reappears somewhere else that you've calculated. And they use it to make it so that the ship can't escape. And then they even use it when Picard decides to order them to fire all their phaser, fire their photon torpedoes. Good thing they didn't fire any quantum. And I saw a comment online, somebody saying, "Why didn't they fire any quantum torpedoes?" And it was actually Terry Metalis, the showrunner, said because they'd be dead.
And not every ship is equipped with quantum torpedoes.
No, but he's like, if they had them and they fired them, they'd be dead. Because it's like, okay, so just fire standard ones then. But still, and the actual B plot is that there's a saboteur on the ship, and it's revealed that the changelings, like the Odo's race, right, the founders, are back, or a faction of them are back, and they're sabotaging the ship, and they somehow want Picard's son for some reason, and he's having all these weird blood flashes. I'm seriously hoping it's not that he's some hybrid DNA creature from them.
3 theories.
We'll briefly talk about that at the end, because I have a couple theories too. But the idea is, the plot is he's uncovering that there is a threat there, and this is sort of the B plot where Seven comes back to terms with Shaw. He shows that he's not just some dumb, captain that's mean to everybody. He's actually quite smart. He is quite well read on everything. Obviously, having been in the Dominion War, he knows everything about. He knows enough about how changelings work and their physiology and what to look for. I did laugh at when he's like, they leave like a goo trail. It's dumb, but the idea is he's hurt, everything's going on. He's not going to be all formal and remember everything. He's just like, he's talking the way you would talk in a panic if you're like, here's what you need to look for. And then we get a little bit of standards, changeling style tropes. What do you look for when you find the cracks in their logic, find the cracks in their knowledge. We find out that they're going to try to harness the energy of this space, I guess, labor.
Yeah.
That's happening, and they're going to suck in the energy from these contractions of this energy species. They don't know what it is, and to do so, they're going to have to open the nacelles and suck the energy directly in. And lo and behold, as mentioned earlier, Shaw was an engineer, like a whiz kid engineer 30 years ago at the Battle of Wolf through 5-9. So he knows how to actually, override some stuff that the young cadets or young people wouldn't know. So he has to go do it with Seven. LaForge's daughter shows up, but to us, the audience, if you're anybody who's seen any amount of science fiction, what's coming, that this is actually a changeling. We find out it's because Seven has a personal relationship with LaForge, and LaForge talked differently than she would have, and that's where we sort of see the mutual respect get back between the two, between Shaw and Seven, and I like that. I like that character development there, and then we see that the Shrike has. I know I'm going rapid fire, but we'll get through it quickly. We see that the Shrike has the captain. I'm trying to blank on her name, but it's
Vatic.
Vatic, that's right. Played by Christopher Plummer's daughter, Amanda Plummer. Christopher Plummer, obviously being
from
General
Star
Chang.
Trek 6.
I think that was the name. No relation, obviously, between the characters. Just fun little, I guess,
Fun note.
Fun little familial note here. And we find out that her hand is a changeling. She's not a changeling, but a changeling is masquerading as her hand. And also,
I thought it was kind of clever.
And also clearly controlling her, has something over her, has some sort of threat. So she's not as crazy evil as you might think. It looks like she's been driven to be that way because out of fear. And we see at the end of episode 4, Riker does a pretty freaking funny and cool maneuver, which is, let's use a tractor beam and slingshot
an asteroid,
meteor. Or an asteroid. Sorry, meteor is it a meteor when it's falling, an asteroid when it's in space?
Meteors on the ground, meteorite. Well,
right
meteorites
into the
on
Shrike.
the ground, meteors in the sky burning up.
Oh, that's right. Okay, sorry. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, got my science wrong. And he slingshots it, smashes into the Shrike. The Shrike just basically has to limp away. And did you just throw an asteroid?
Yeah.
Goddamn right, I did. And that's where I'm like, that's like the movie Riker, right? Like that's just something. And I laughed at it. I'm like, you know what? That's kind of fun. Okay, I'll take it. It's dumb, but it's fun, and it's sort of playing with the whole, we had the portal thing. Here's a lo-fi, a low tech solution, even though it's using a tractor beam still. And then we that's our arc ends with them going off into space, and I'm like, that's a cool little mini arc for like a mini series arc. And then we have episode 5, and we bring Ro back. Now, I didn't watch as much seasons 5 through 7. I didn't know that Ensign Ro was only in like 9 episodes.
I didn't see.
I thought that she had. I thought she had. See, I thought she had joined as like a main character. I honestly didn't know
She was
wasn't.
supposed to be, and then I think there was some writing problems. She was supposed to be a transition character for DS9.
Because
I think I've read
Major
that somewhere.
Kira was originally intended to be Ro.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. But like, I guess it's just because a lot of her episodes, when they would do reruns, were always shown on TV. So I just assumed. Like, it's funny because I haven't done a full watch of, like, I've seen a lot of seasons 1 through 4, and then I've seen like the highlight episodes from seasons 5 through 7. So I didn't know that, but it's interesting to me. Surprise, surprise, they've already contacted Starfleet, and they are now, Shaw's like, you're in trouble, but I'm going to give you a few minutes to
Your bullshit story straight.
get your story straight, people.
Was funny.
Yeah,
That was funny.
yeah. So I was like, okay, that's nice. I like that. And surprise, surprise, who shows up? It's Ro, but now Commander somehow. And most of the episode, or at least half of it, is set up to be a very The Thing situation where it's who is, are you who you say you are? Is she being set up to be a changeling? Is she not being set up? And you sort of figure it out as it goes on, as they start to discuss things more in the holodeck, and you realize, we get 25 years of character development in the span of about 10 minutes.
And that is, again, some of the best stuff New Trek has done.
Chef's kiss.
Like Michelle Forge, is that her name? Michelle Forbes
Yes.
Or Michelle Forge?
Michelle Forbes. She's fantastic.
Yeah, this is career highlight performance from what I know of her. Honestly, it's intense, it's emotional, and when her and Picard lay out all their cards out on the table, and they basically say, it's like a father-daughter thing. It's like, I wanted to mold you in my image, but I didn't want that. And again,
it's like I wanted your respect and love, but not on your terms.
Yeah, it's like, love me for who I am and what I can stand for on my own. I don't need your ideals. And I know she has a great line about just you confuse duty and morality or something along those lines. And I'm thinking, that's some fucking great writing. Not, dual wielding akimbo phasers and blowing people up.
Sword.
Yeah, there are some great...
No, remember, that's only on Tuesdays.
Yeah. There are some moments with character development where you can accomplish something that, like I said, people have wanted to see what happened to Ro Laren since she disappeared way back when. And that's astounding writing. And it's not talking at the camera. It's not delivering a monologue or a soliloquy or whatever. It's literally two people having a conversation. And even Picard says this. Or he's like, I've been rehearsing this conversation for 30 years.
He has so much bitterness in his heart for what he feels she did, but doesn't understand her point of view on it. Yeah.
Because if you look, why has he always been so close? Because anytime he opens his heart to somebody, they either die or betray him in his mind.
Yeah.
So that's what he feels. So again, it almost lends into the discussion that we had, or that he had with Beverly. Why should she have told him about his son if this is how he behaves when things don't go his way? So there's lots of things. It's very well done. This is more conspiracy stuff. What she's setting up is she's setting up a conspiracy on the level of what we saw in season 1's conspiracy, only with time to breathe. She's basically saying, hey, I've been monitoring. She's the contact that Worf has in Starfleet intelligence. And she's been monitoring, I think she said there were 12 incidents of changelings on ships where people were killed, and that are being hushed up. And she's like, that's a lot even for us to have covered up. Like it's one thing to maybe cover up one or two things to keep the peace, but this is a pattern that is being covered up to the point where it should have been something that was mentioned to senior level captains of ships, and it was being locked out from anybody outside of intelligence. It didn't make sense. And that similarly to the conspiracy episode, ships are being moved around in weird ways that don't make sense. And when I think it's Foundation Day,
something like that, yeah.
It's coming up, and she's like, every ship is going to be there, and that's not normal to have every ship in the fleet on display. And it doesn't make sense that this security memo has not gone out to anybody, and she felt that things are odd even on the ships that she's been serving on when she's gone out into space outside of intelligence. So basically, it's the trust no one. It's done better than I think in Conspiracy it was still cool when he met with the other captains on the planet and they had to do the whole "Are you who you say you are?" It's very similar, except now we're not getting space bugs and we're getting changelings. But obviously they kill off Rose dead by the end of this. Spoiler, people, but this is how you kill off a character we know. This isn't Ichev being ripped apart. He's not being ripped apart in the first 10 seconds of an episode in some horrible, torturous way. This is Ro hands him her Bajoran earpiece, her earring, walks away, and then her crew was actually changelings, and they put a bomb on her ship. And what does she do?
Yeah,
she kamikazes the ship, and gives them time because she's flying close enough to
Intrepid. Yeah,
the Intrepid. And she just guns it. She's like, all right, I know now that the Intrepid has been compromised, even though a lot of the crew have been transported over there. So they have a skeleton crew basically running the Titan right now, and she just and the look on everybody's face, and Captain Shaw is there, and the look on his face is, what the fuck just happened? Like what? And then all the junior officers are like, what? What just a commander from Starfleet just flew the ship? What? And finally Shaw agrees. He's like, okay, they're like, you've seen with your own eyes. If you don't have to trust us. Trust your own eyes. Yeah. And he's like, all right, let's drive away. And they barely make it away. And this, it ends with Riker realizing that the earring was actually basically like a storage device. I think what do you call it? A data cube or something, or a data...
Old school spycraft, and I love that line.
Yeah. And it pulls up, and it's every report that she's been pulling up of all the movements of everything. And then we finally get to sort of meet face to face, or at least video to face, with Worf, and we're setting up, what's potentially going to happen with this next arc, being about the some sort of insurgency within Starfleet by a violent founder Dominion War takeover.
Which, as we begin to close out this episode, I'm going to say this. In the next 2 episodes, major character dies. Not Probably. Just Ro, somebody. It's going to be somebody from the TNG cast. And the reason I'm predicting that, look at the trailers we saw in the preseason.
Yes, and I guess, it closes with, this is the episode that closes, I think, with the visions of Jack Crusher, right?
Yeah.
Where he's like something seriously wrong with me, and he's seeing all these weird things happen. I will say very quickly what my predictions are, or my things that I see where things are going here with Crusher. I think what they're leading us to believe with all these blood things that he's seeing is that he's some hybrid, that he's got human DNA and he's got founder DNA in him. With the reason the one way it could go is that that they might be leading us to believe is that the founders want him because he has. This is going to be stupid, but I hope it's not going this way, because this is the stupid Picard way of seasons 1 and 2. That they want him to go to their planet where he joins in. What do they call it? The
Great Link.
The Great Link, because he has the DNA of Picard, which will allow them to try to control the Borg through communication with the Borg.
I have 3 theories.
The other way, the other way it goes in my head, he's not human at all, and he is a changeling. He's a changeling that has been tricked into. He's a clone of Jack. Like, the idea is, Jack's talked about all these crazy things and trips they've been on where they've had people hijack their ships. At some point, he was kidnapped and cloned, and he's actually dead. Like, the actual Jack is dead, and this is a clone. He's a sleeper agent that doesn't realize he's a sleeper agent. And
so some Bourne identity bullshit.
No, but if that happens and the real Jack is dead, and he's been replaced or whatever, or he's been altered and he's a sleeper agent, what's going to happen is he's going to eventually, he'll rebel against his sleeper agent programming or his founder programming, and he's going to end up basically still being the son. Or the message, or in his head, like, the message you kept hearing was "come back to us," and I couldn't tell if in my head, I couldn't tell if that sounded like Vatic talking, or is it literally the Borg talking to him and he doesn't know what it is? Like, does he have some genetic marker in him because his father, his father was assimilated and then freed, but still was able to have those hints of connections as we saw throughout like First Contact and that, and he would get like the echoes where he could hear them. Is that some genetic marker that has changed within his body that when he has a kid, that kid can also hear the Borg?
You've kind of touched on a couple of my theories. Like, one is that he's a changeling sleeper agent. But the Borg thing, I think he's human, but because Picard was Borg, he has nanites still in him. And he had sex with Beverly.
Did he?
And
yeah.
Nanites are there.
So like nanites passing through like seminal vessels or whatever sort of thing.
Slowly creeping through Jack's brain. Link with us, join with us. You know, okay, that's fair. The whole link with us thing is like the Great Link.
Exactly. That's me. Is it a red herring? Like, are they throwing that at us? Is the link with us return to us? Do they not know? Like, are they saying it as if they're talking to Picard?
Theory.
Like they don't.
What's red in this show? Weird and creepy and deals with nuclear blasts. The death robots from season 1.
The fucking Reapers. Fuck
I
right
hope
off.
It's not, but I can't.
If it's the Reapers, they bring them back. I'm going to be upset.
What is the obsession with the writers of New Trek and red things? The Red Angel, what was the other
red
thing?
matter.
The Reapers came out of that big red portal, and you have a red door that he's seeing all the time.
And what was it? The burn was like a giant red explosion. What is this? What is it with the obsession with red things?
Why
red
can't we have a nice purple?
Really do. But I can't.
A nice green.
That's the problem.
It's going to definitely whatever. We might be completely wrong, but I do think the key to this, whether or not he's a sleeper, is going to be that the founders want him because of some connection to the Borg. Whether it be that they want to be able to control the Borg, or do they want him because the Borg have found a way to assimilate them? Like, have they been assimilated by the Borg somehow? Or it's clear, like it was mentioned. Actually, one thing I'll say, like, remember how we said there was basically a clean break from seasons 1 and 2 except for Rafi? There was a little mention at one point of Picard being a robot now. They made like an offhanded remark. And Captain Shaw, when he's like, I don't care about the whatever Borg it was, and it's the Borg that are now apparently part of Starfleet.
Talked about the real Borg
or part of the Federation. Yeah, he says he's the real Borg are out there. And it's like, oh, you just destroyed everything the writers tried to do in season 2.
The Allison Pillborg aren't from our universe; they're from that pocket universe.
Exactly, and he's like, no, like the real Borg, the scary Borg, are still there. Is his response, right? So there's that. But I do think it's going to be Borg, but also they did mention what's the
Daystrom
Institute
base or whatever.
That base.
That'll be fucking Moriarty. He's the base
they
AI.
That's what. It's clear. Like what they showed, like what was stolen from there. What was probably stolen from there, or how they got there, would have been Moriarty. It's either that or Lore is there.
Lore.
It's one of two things: either Moriarty was used to get Lore or get something from there pertaining to Lore, or Lore was used to get in there, and we're going to have to use Moriarty to stop Lore.
That's possible. I think it would be fun that you do have a link between the Borg and Lore, because Lore recruited Borg. So
yeah. Exactly. So it's all going to come down, like the right now where this arc is going to be about the founders and the the changelings for the next 3 or 4 episodes, and I think the final 2 episodes, the double parter, they already said that the last 2 are 2-part episodes, so expect like 2 hours or whatever of program. Might even be longer episodes. That final 2, my prediction is it's a Borg fight, or Borg, or like whether it be something or other around that sense, or I'm thinking the only other thing that they could throw at us is I'm thinking if it's something to do with the Borg and the changelings, because it would make sense. Like the Borg can't assimilate the changelings because they don't have a solid like if you're trying to put nanites in or whatever and affect their cerebral cortex, how do you do it when they can shift their cerebral cortex to anywhere in their body? Right? Like are they're more similar to like energy-based beings, right?
Sort of.
In that sense?
I don't think I would see a problem with the Borg assimilating changelings in the end, because they do have like a structure of some sort. They're just kind of goo. They still have to have some sort of neuron.
Yeah. Maybe it's harder. It would be interesting to me. I would like to see it if, is this a situation where the changelings, they're infiltrating us, they're screwing with us, but maybe they're doing it because they're afraid of the Borg. Like have the Borg decided that they've set their sights on them? Or like is the reveal, is there going to be like, I know we're getting a closing to this whole series. It's supposed to close everything for Picard and then maybe leave the doors open for spin-off series later on. Like if we are going to get a cliffhanger ending, not cliffhanger, but like a post-credit little tease, it would be interesting if what Starfleet intelligence finds out, or what this whole reveal is, that there's been reports of cube sightings in the Gamma Quadrant. Like what if the Borg went, you know what, it's not worth it right now, we're giving up on going after the Alpha and Beta, and it's Gamma, and that's why the Founders are on the move. Like they're so freaked out that they think they have to control us because they can't ask for help.
I think it's worth pointing out again that since we're just sitting here theorizing, there's enough information in this season so far that it's got our brains going. And
I can't wait for the final half. So that's my closing thoughts. Sorry.
No.
Amongst yourselves. I have rambled like
There's
crazy.
so many good things about the first half of the season. I have clapped watching this first half of this season. I have like literally stood up out of my chair and good job, show. Like seriously, you surprised me. You did something that like really felt Trek in a way that I hadn't seen before. Something like that. I have been very positive with like Lower Decks and Prodigy. This has made me feel very positive as well. And
this is the Trek we should have gotten when they launched Picard.
This is great.
Oh yeah.
I'm with like Aaron. This, like when I sat here with Alex, I said this is a completely different show. This actually makes me excited. This brings me back and makes me excited for what could come next. And
I'm afraid they're going to kill off Seven,
though. Like a major legacy character is going to die in the next 2 episodes.
What I'm afraid of is if it ends up being a Borg fight in the last 2 episodes, that's
Seven's dead. Seven's dead.
If it literally is a full scale Borg thing, I'm afraid of that. Or them do, like, as long as they don't do the dumb thing and make her the queen. Again,
I will tell you who is plot proof right now, depending on how risky they want to get. And then I seriously would like to eat some dinner. Okay. Yeah. So, I don't think Deanna is off the table. And here's why. It certainly adds a new layer of tragedy, but do you do it for tragedy's sake?
I don't think so. They still have a young girl.
But that might make, I don't know. Riker may not be off the table either.
I have to, if I had to predict, Michael, we haven't seen Geordi. I think the big reveal is going to be that Geordi is captaining the Enterprise, and I don't think he's captaining the Enterprise. I think he commandeers the Enterprise, because I'm having this prediction that he's very smart. He's also in charge of. Isn't he in charge of the ship docks or whatever, or the program?
He's in charge of like the Star
engineering,
whatever. Whatever is going on there. What I think is going to happen is he's going to find out what's been going on. Like he's going to get a message that, hey, one of your daughter's ships is now rogue and wanted for attacking the, and he's going to be like, that's not possible. And he's going to see a thing saying, it's going to say that the ship was hijacked by Riker and Picard. He's going to be like, I don't believe it. But not with my daughter in there. And then he's going to get his other daughter, who's probably serving on the Enterprise, and he's going to take the ship over with him. I personally would love to see if it was like that he independently of Ro was putting together that it doesn't make sense for these ships to be moved around, or things like from Starfleet, like from engineering, didn't make sense, and he's going to figure something's wrong and show up. I would personally love to see like some major engineering conundrum that has to be solved with him, one of his daughters, and maybe O'Brien. I don't know. But again, that's just if we're trying to do like fan servicey stuff. I think he's going to show up on the Enterprise with his daughter, and that's how they're going to get saved at some point here, and they're going to have to, abandon the Titan over onto the Enterprise, and we're going to, regardless if it's in the next 2 episodes or in the final 2, what might end up happening is the show might just end with the bridge crew on the Enterprise flying.
Don't want to make any predictions about who's going to live and who's going to die. I don't.
Yeah. But I think what I was getting to is I think it's possible that Geordi goes. Just because of how he's been talking in interviews. Like he's talking about how much he's been talking on like the press junket circuit, how happy he was, and how he only came back on the condition that he was able to work with his daughter. When they offered it to him, that was the tipping point, and how it's important, how the show is important to him. And also, he's been the most teary-eyed talking. So I'm just getting this odd feeling that Geordi's going to have to do something. Something he's going to have to do. He's going to have his Wrath of Khan going into the core moment.
I'll be okay with that. I really would.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'll be a mess. But I just, like, as you were saying, I just think if there's a main crew member, I think it's him.
Yeah, you're probably right. All right, guys, so we are going to wrap this up. So thank you for enjoying this supersized episode of Future Imperfect. We are definitely a dreadnought class now. So anyway, guys, we will be coming back with more Future Imperfect. We're going to do something on time travel movies. I know me and Aaron were going to talk about, like, me and Aaron had the show planned out since last year. We're going to do something about cryptids at some point. We're going to talk about other sci-fi franchises you maybe have forgot about. We've just got a lot of interesting stuff cooking, and I think you're going to be very, very, very pleased.
Yeah. So as far as doing a second half where we do episodes, like 6 to 10, we'll probably do that like this, and unless if a lot of really major stuff happened in the next 2 to 3 episodes, maybe we'll have to split it into 2 episodes.
Yeah, so you will definitely get more of this, and then we'll do kind of a Picard report card after everything is all said and done. So you'll hear us talk about season 1, season 2, and season 3 in their entirety. How does the Picard series hold up, and the legacy of the Jean-Luc Picard character as portrayed by Patrick Stewart. So anyway, guys, for Future Imperfect, joining us from the land of Kitchener, we have been
Alex. I don't know what my rank is anymore.
Subcommander.
Not
a Romulan.
Yeah, fuck you, you fucking Romulan.
What was I'll be Gaul, whatever. Gaul Alexander. We'll go with that. It'd be like, what? You're part of the Dominion? Shut up. Shh.
And of course
or I guess, what's another good position I could
chief.
be?
Praetor?
Praetor? It'd be like Praetor Alex. It'd be like, but there isn't any wrong. Just let him have the title.
It's okay.
And of course, it wouldn't be
Baron
Future
Pollyea.
Imperfect without our Trek expert. All right, guys, I have been Lieutenant Commander Mike the Birdman saying, and until next time, folks, live long and prosper.
Computer, this is Captain James Kirk of the USS Enterprise. Destruct sequence 1, code 1, 1A.
Computer, initiate the self-destruct sequence. Authorization Janeway Pi 110.
Computer, this is Captain Benjamin Sisko. Initiate auto-destruct sequence.
Authorization Cisco Alpha 1 Alpha.
Begin auto-destruct sequence. Authorization Picard 47 Alpha Tango.
Self-destruct in 15 minutes. There will be no further audio warning.
My lord, the ship appears to be deserted.
How can that be? They're hiding.
Yes, sir. But the bridge seems to be run by computer. It is the only thing speaking.
Speaking? Let me hear.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Get out!
3,
Get out of there! Get out!
1.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.